Generally, informal assessments for ELLs are used to check language comprehension and retention without an emphasis on scoring. This type of assessment is an ideal way to see what students really know without placing them under the pressure of a formal examination. Before using any of these assessments, it's important that students are aware their ideas and responses are not being graded. When the pressure of getting a good score is removed, many students may relax and use English more naturally, which will give you a clearer picture of their true language ability. This lesson will go over a few informal assessment techniques. This assessment will help you determine the conversational English ability of each student. You can conduct this assessment face-to-face with either 1 or 2 students at a time. The main idea is to give your ELLs an opportunity to speak naturally about everyday topics. Possible topics include hobbies, entertainment, sports, goals and dreams, school. If possible, conduct this assessment in a relaxed, private environment, such as your office or an empty classroom. The environment is important because students shouldn't feel apprehensive about being overheard by classmates. Privacy can do a lot to encourage students to speak without fear of being judged or making mistakes. For beginner students, limit the chat to a couple of minutes and try to ask open-ended questions to elicit longer responses. Remember that open-ended questions can't be answered with a yes or no response. For example, "Do you like school?" is an example of a closed question, while "What is your favorite part of school?" is an open question. For intermediate and advanced students, extend the conversation time and ask multi-part questions. For instance, "What's your favorite sport? Why do you like it? And how often do you play it?" Before you begin each chat, remind the student that this is just a friendly conversation and there's no scoring involved. At the end of each chat, give the student some positive feedback and words of encouragement. While free writing is typically used as a brainstorming technique, it's also a great way to assess an ELL's understanding of English grammar, spelling, and mechanics. For this assessment, you'll give students a general topic and a set time limit, during which they can write about anything related to the topic. There are a few guidelines to go over with your students before starting the timer. While the teacher will look at your writing, it will not be graded or scored. However, errors may be marked and comments given. As you write, try to use correct English spelling and grammar. Don't worry too much about the time or amount you write. How much you write isn't as important as how well you write. Write legibly. Choose topics based on the abilities and interests of your ELLs. Topics can range from what each student did last weekend to suggestions on how people can help the environment. You can also require students to write all of their passages in a single notebook, and then review the notebooks at the end of the term to determine what progress has been made. There's nothing more informal than a student assessing another student. In this type of assessment, students write quizzes for other students to take. The subject of the quizzes is secondary to the writing of the questions. Here, students should focus on writing clear, concise, and correct questions for their peers to answer. Constantly reminding students to think of these 3 C's, clear, concise, correct, when they write quiz questions. The format of the quizzes could include multiple choice, fill in the blank, or short answer, but the ultimate decision is up to you. Also, students shouldn't write questions about English, but rather questions related to practical English usage or other topics they're learning. For example, "What is a noun?" is not a good question because it's about English. "How would you describe your best friend?" is one example of a good question, as is, "What are the results of deforestation?" All quizzes should be turned into you for approval before being handed out to other students. When you assess the quizzes, look for adherence to the 3 C's model and offer helpful suggestions and feedback, but be sure to keep any comments positive and informal in tone. Informal assessments are a valuable tool for teachers because they allow for evaluation of a student's English ability without placing the student in a formal, high-pressure environment. Friendly chats, guided free writing, and student-generated quizzes can all be used in the classroom with little preparation and can have the added bonus of solidifying new information in your ELL's minds.